Welcome to the inaugural lecture of the Mary Robinson Speaker Series on Business and Human Rights.
This is the one evening where I feel we kind of come together under the auspices of Phil Bloomer and the Business and Human Rights Resource Centre to talk about human rights in a way that is very evidence-based, very tough, but also encourages us, gives us great hope.
Mary Robinson is well known to you all. She has also given her name to this speaker series. Mary has come all the way from Ireland just for you tonight.
I want to thank Mary Robinson for all that she has done for our organization over the years. When we were planning this second Mary Robinson Speaker Series event early this year, I contacted Mary and said, you know, what kind of a speaker do you want for the second annual event? And Mary's response was very simple. She said, I want an advocate who is having a real impact.
For me and for many advocates around the world, Mary Robinson is a personal hero and a great inspiration.
Mary is really the second coming of Eleanor Roosevelt, and that's why it's appropriate that we're here in the Roosevelt House. And I would agree with that, but especially because Eleanor Roosevelt had an expansive understanding of human rights. It wasn't just civil and political, it was economic, social, and cultural. She cared about women's rights, and I think that also really embodies Mary Robinson. She has been a warrior for human rights. There is no short version, Mary.
She's a very proud mother and grandmother, and her care for future generations is something that spurs her to work so hard on behalf of human rights and for climate justice. But if I channel Mary and she were here right now, long before this point, she would have told me to stop.
I'm very grateful to my friend Heather Grady, who will be my voice this evening, even though she doesn't have a particularly good Irish accent. I have to say tomato rather than tomato. I mean, it's difficult for me, but I'll try and speak the local language. Let's get back to the United States. Any backlash? Any Trump-lash?
Hey people, the system separates us, but we can't be divided. My people, the system's got us down, but we gotta keep fighting.
No lo hizo con una declaración solamente diciendo apoyando a los trabajadores pobres de Immokalee.
She did not do it with mere declarations that she supported the poor workers of Immokalee.
No, ella fue a Immokalee. Ella caminó por las calles polvorientas de Immokalee.
She went to Immokalee. She walked the dusty streets of Immokalee with us.
It's clear to us that we have to mitigate the risks that we see in our world, and there's none greater than climate change.
Even though I have been jailed, confined in the smallest place you can imagine, and psychologically tortured, and at the hands of the state, I'm still standing up today. If I can, you can too.
It's about what do we do? What is the face of good?
You're not going to solve the problem of poor working conditions until you really look at the business relationship between brands, factory owners, workers, etc.
Despite the commitments that are being made by the companies, by the brands, workers are still dying for the reasons that could be avoided very easily if they're given safer workplaces.
As Mary has said in the past, if I can quote her, this isn't a kind of a global trade agreement where you can balance one thing off against the other. This is a zero sum. We've got to get this right.
And for the human rights community, I think coming out in support of the need for workers' voices to be an integral part of the solution is really where we need the business and human rights community to be going.
In our country, in China, we're facing environmental challenges. They are real, they are serious. It matters to the environmental rights and human rights of not just this generation of Chinese, but the generations to come.
Parce que, vous savez, quand quelqu'un est victime d'une violation des droits de l'homme, ce qu'il cherche, c'est la réparation. Et pour avoir la réparation, il faut qu'il y ait des voies de recours qui sont disponibles.
So what I'm going to focus on is what victims can do when there's this object of human rights violations. And in that situation, what they need is a remedy.
It's important to bring this to the core business of the companies. It's not a favor to fight against slavery.
We have to think of refugees as a true opportunity for any country would host such talented people with passion, with dedication, with determination to survive and to coexist peacefully.
The other integral aspect of the experience of the refugee, as I imagine, is that they are forced to believe in a way that their comparative advantage is their hardship, that the only way that they can be attractive for employers is by accepting lower wages, worse employment conditions, etc.
There had been efforts to form unions with rural workers in Mexico recently that could actually help to improve conditions. So to go back to these basics about labor rights.
There are risks to action, but almost always they are outweighed by the risks of inaction.
No one up there should say, we didn't know, we didn't have the information.
This is doing me good, Phil. I've had these withdrawal pains, and this is helping. You know, business, if it acts responsibly, is part of the answer to ongoing human rights challenges. But companies will need expert support and critical guidance in monitoring their own progress and dealing with emerging issues at national level. There is a clear responsibility of the private sector here in contributing to the generation of decent work opportunities for refugees and in ensuring that this vulnerable population isn't exploited in business operations or supply chains.
And it is an honour for us to be able to work with Mary on these events, because it is definitely a collaboration between us to make sure that, as Mary always wanted, we have the voices of some of the people on the front line doing the work that we all value so much.
And Mary, you have given us excellent tools for the decade to come.
How do we get business to really understand that it's in their interests to be in this space, that we cannot have social cohesion and, you know, promotion of confidence in a community if we have a shrinking, as we have so much, of civil society space? There's no real guarantee, I think, in human rights work that we'll make constant progress. On the contrary, it's always a struggle, it's always eternal vigilance, it's always making sure that there's a holding to account.
In the words of an Irish blessing, may green be the grass you walk on, may blue be the skies above you, may pure be the joys that surround you, may true be the hearts that love you. We love you.